All right, guys. So, made a video yesterday talking about how I was going to have to go and get tested due to exposure, and basically just, giving a message to everyone, like saying, hey, don't be selfish. I know people want to still be able to go out and enjoy life, and I'm perfectly fine with everyone doing that. But if you're getting signs that you have COVID, be courteous enough to kind of stay at home and let that pass. Don't do things like go around your family members and your loved ones and intentionally expose them unnecessarily. I think anyone who does that is a very selfish individual. You should, if you're positive but you can't avoid, you've got to go get, say, food. You've got no one to bring you food. You got to do what you got to do. But to intentionally expose people for a prolonged period of time, it's unnecessary. In my opinion, it's very selfish. It's part of why this spread has probably been as bad as it has, in my opinion. But, good news. I don't know how, but I've got my test done this morning. I had to wait the 3 days minimum per my job. I still feel perfectly fine, as I did yesterday. And I am negative. I do not have COVID-19 according to the test. Okay? They didn't want me to come get the test today because I had no symptoms. They're like, well, maybe you should wait 7 days. I'm like, I can't afford to stay out of work 7 days just to wait on a test that may or may not be positive or negative. Like my job says 3 to 5 days. 3 days is the minimum. So I've waited the 3 days. Coming to get the test, and if I start getting symptoms, I'll come back and get another test, because luckily the insurance plan that I just was able to get this year, the insurance with my company absolutely sucks. Luckily, with my wife's new job, her insurance is actually pretty decent, and as long as you have either symptoms or exposure, apparently they will cover the test. And I called them to confirm that this morning before I went. But yeah, so I've come up negative, and so to me this brings up another issue, because to give you context on just how exposed I was to this, and right now, my mom, who exposed me to it, lied and said she was fine on Friday, came around to me, and then I found out through family members she had lost taste like a week ago. She told me she lost taste on Thursday after she tested positive yesterday on Sunday for it, right? I thought at Friday at lunch when we were eating, she mentioned she lost taste. I'm like, well, so this must have just kind of happened, because she got in my car sniffling. And then I find out from family members she had lost taste like either early that week or late last week. She had been dealing with this for a while. So this was not early COVID. Right now, she's at home, vomiting, diarrhea, body aches, fever chills, headaches, loss of taste, loss of smell. The only thing she's really missing at this point is a cough and a sore throat. Okay? But she's got all these other side effects. And we're only talking at this point, like 3 days since she was around me, and the length of time we were around each other. I picked her up in my car to carpool from my house to the courthouse, which is about a 15-minute, give or take, drive, depending on traffic. 15 minutes sitting side by side, no mask on, okay? We put a mask on to go in the courthouse. They require it. So we had masks on there at least. Come back out to my car. She sits in my passenger seat again. We go from the courthouse to where we went to go get lunch. That's about another 10-minute drive, sitting side by side, no mask. Go inside the restaurant, wear the mask to the table, of course, take the masks off the table, and now we're sitting straight across from each other. And we're not talking about a giant table. I mean, like, we're probably talking maybe 3, maybe 4 feet apart from each other. But we're not a huge distance apart, and we're straight across from each other, okay? I'm blowing in her direction by breathing. She's blowing in my direction by breathing. We sit there long enough, because we went to a Mexican restaurant, okay? We were there long enough to eat the chips and the bean dip that they brought out as appetizer. We had that. We ordered our course, our burritos, our entree. Okay, we got that. Had time to eat all of that, chat, socialize, back and forth, talking. We were doing talking, so obviously you're breathing if you're talking. Okay, and we each ordered those big, house margaritas that, the giant, over 20 ounce size or whatever, right? It comes in like the big bowl. We each had one of those. So we were there long enough, sitting right across from each other, to do all of that. We're talking at probably easy 40 minutes to an hour that we sat there right across from each other, breathing back and forth. Okay? And then we had to sit beside each other again for me to ride her 10, 15 minutes back to my house so she could pick up her car and leave. Now, for her to be COVID positive to that extent, where only a few days later she is having all these terrible symptoms, okay? And relatives of mine telling me she was actually having certain symptoms as far as a week previously. For her to have had COVID to that extent and be right around me that entire amount of time, me not be fully vaccinated, only had the first shot, something doesn't sound right, does it? Something doesn't sound right. Like, how could you be that exposed with only the first round of the COVID shot and come up negative, that exposed to COVID? Someone who is only a couple of days later just down and out and miserable from COVID. And I'm still feeling perfectly fine. So, I'm no doctor, I'm no expert, I'm no scientist. But I kind of go with what my common sense tells me. And I've got a hunch. I've said this multiple times on my channel. Okay? I believe that in November of 2019, I had COVID-19. Okay? Before anyone knew what it was. I was miserable. I didn't have the vomiting or anything like that. Okay? I think I had the original Alpha variant. I felt miserable. I couldn't breathe well. I had no energy. I just felt zapped of my energy. Okay? I had headaches. I had body aches. It was just a miserable feeling. And it took me almost a month to get over that. And usually I wind up, sinus congestion ends up in my chest, some Mucinex, and I get rid of it. It did not happen that year. It was not my normal that I get every year. Started off seeming like my normal, but it wasn't. And the doctors could not tell me for sure what I had. The only thing they could tell me was it was some sort of a respiratory infection. They didn't know what it was, and I wound up having to go to a doctor twice that year. They put me on antibiotics the first time and gave me an inhaler. As I've said before, I had to go through that whole round of antibiotics. Okay? Still had plenty left in the inhaler. Went back because I wasn't any better. They put me on stronger antibiotics, give me steroid pills, and told me keep using the steroid inhaler and taking Mucinex. And by the time I finally got through that round of the antibiotics and steroid pills, I was getting better. But at that point, we're talking 3 weeks to a month here. Okay? That is a long, long time to be sick. Okay? At least for me. I don't normally stay sick for that long of a period of time. But in that case, I was. Okay? So I fully believe, because only a few months later we start hearing about COVID-19. I truly believe that I had that. And if my suspicion is correct, that I've already had COVID-19, and I have had at this point the first round of the vaccine shot, I do believe the vaccine helps to some extent, but I'm not fully vaccinated. I've only had half of it, right? And so my mom has had half of it too. Now, I wonder if she caught it before she got hers, because she got her shot not a couple of days ago on Thursday, but the week before that. And it was like a day or two later when apparently she was secretly reporting symptoms to some of my family and just not telling me about them and kept me in the dark because she wanted me to be there to be her witness at court because she didn't want to postpone her divorce hearing. Again, that courtesy thing we're talking about here, right? So I wonder if she might have gotten her shot after she actually caught it. But in my case, I've only had the first half. I'm not fully vaccinated. So for me to be that exposed and not catch it, well, here's my theory. Rand Paul has just brought this up in again, one of these committee hearings. I forget the guy who he was talking to, but the clip going around is like, you are not a scientist and you are not a doctor. Where he's like telling this guy, he was arguing over the people who said like they've had COVID and they don't believe that they should have to take the vaccine because they have a natural immunity, which is something that is starting to become, the argument and the talking point is, do you need both? You got people like Fauci saying you need both. I'm no doctor. I don't know. I know what my personal stance is, but since this is going on YouTube, I'm not going to get into the weeds too much there. Watch Rockfin if you really want to know more of my full-on thoughts of that, and watch some of my older YouTube videos. But I'm not going to get in too much into the weeds on that. Obviously, I've already had to, take the first round for my job. I'll end up getting the second round because of my job. But there's studies that are showing how effective natural immunity can be against COVID. Turns out even the chief epidemiologist of Iceland is signaling that natural immunity might be the best way to beat COVID. He kind of signaled that a while back. Kim Iverson covered it, right? So if my theory is correct, that I actually had some version of COVID in November 2019, and I actually had that, well, that might actually explain why I would be able to sit right in the face of someone who actually had COVID for more than 2 hours, okay, and not catch COVID. Because how else do you explain that? When this thing is as contagious as it is, the other option will be they're just lying to us about how contagious it is, I suppose, right? But I'm not going to go there because I know plenty of people who have still contracted COVID, and I do believe it is a very, very contagious virus. I really do. So how in the world did I avoid getting it sitting right in someone's face who's breathing right at me who had COVID? And for those who think I'm just making this whole thing up, lab results right here where I've tested negative, okay? I don't have my mom's lab results, so I can't show you those. If you think I'm making that up, well, I guess you're just gonna have to take my word for it. But, promise you, I'm not making this story up. I'm not doing this to try to get YouTube clicks or whatever. I'm genuinely extremely surprised that I do not have COVID-19. But again, the question then becomes, how do I not have COVID-19? And again, my theory on this is, I think I've got a natural immunity thing because I do believe I had it in 2019. I'm not fully vaccinated, and I just sat right across a table from someone for an hour. Total time being around them unmasked, we're talking at least 2 hours plus. And I'm not fully vaccinated, and I don't have it. I had the same amount of shot that they had. Now, they might have picked it up before they got the shot. Don't know. You can't confirm that 100%. So we're just going to go off the fact that they basically had the same amount of shot that I got. They got the first shot, I got the first shot. They got the Pfizer, I got the Pfizer. Talking about my mom. We each had the same amount of vaccine in us, and yet she's positive, I'm not. How is that possible? That's my hypothesis, but let me know what you guys think. Do you think that there obviously is truly a case for this natural immunity being this strong that even probably the Delta variant, because if I had it, I had the Alpha variant, there's no doubt about that. Now Delta's around and they're basically saying that's the dominant thing, like Alpha's gone, right? So what do you guys think? Is natural immunity really that good that even the Delta variant with over an hour of exposure couldn't get me? A person who is not fully vaccinated, only had the first shot? what do you people think? You know, let me know. Drop the comments in the comment box down below. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button. We'll see you next time right here on the Lone Wolf Podcast. Take care, everyone.